Hi there. Are you looking to experience more love, more peace, and more abundance in your life? Do you want to wake up each day with greater purpose and feel more fulfilled? If you are, then this is the place for you. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey. Over the past 2 decades, our open and affirming community has created a safe space for all to come and be uplifted. I hope you enjoy watching, and if you like what you see, please visit us at CSLNJ.org.
Welcome, everyone. And I will introduce myself for those of you here for the first time. I am Reverend Neil Pinkman. I am the spiritual leader, not litter, I have littered, but the spiritual leader for the Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey. And if you are here for the first time, welcome. We love having you here. And we've said it many times for now, more than a couple of decades. If you're here for the first time, you're a guest. You're here for the second time, you're family. We have a beautiful family. We have a wonderful community. And we love sharing it with people. And we love sharing this teaching with people. Um, the um, the music today is brought to us by Lynette Sheard. Thank you, Lynette, for being here today. That's wonderful. We have our speaker, Reverend Joel Fotinos. He's in the house today. So we're glad to have Joel here. And I want to thank Reverend Evelyn for being our practitioner of the day today. So we're in for a great day. It's going to be fantastic. And to start it off, and again, if you need more information, I put contact information in there in different ways that you can learn more about us if you want to know more about us. And I will put into the chat right now. And we can tell everybody right now and remind ourselves of who we are. Who are we? We are an open and affirming science of mind community where the vibration of love lifts you, the wisdom of the ages inspires you, and the science of mind teaching empowers you. We believe that heaven and hell are states of consciousness that you experience in this lifetime, that you are the architect of your life, and that it is never too late to know true happiness. We really, this isn't something we believe. This is something we know. This is at the heart of what we do here every single week, and it is so vitally important. It is absolutely true that heaven and hell are states of consciousness that we create here. And we need to live in that place of knowing that we have the power to create whatever life we want to have. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Uh, Important in what we just read, especially for today, since Reverend Joel will be talking to us about diversity, inclusivity, and that opening line. We are an open and affirming science of mind community. We say we're a safe place to know God because we're very accepting, right? We want you to be here as who you are. And I'm sure Reverend Joel will tell us a lot more about that as we move on today. So right now, I would like to have Lynette give us our opening chant, and then we'll go directly to Reverend Evelyn for our opening treatment. Thank you.
And I breathe in the goodness and the love of God, the love of the one, love of the one that created all things, the one power, the one presence, the one mind in which each of us thinks. And I know that I am one with this one, that I am inextricably linked with this one power that lives in me, and it expresses itself through me and as me. It expresses itself through and as each one of us in an individualized way. And so I speak my word from this power that is within me for this beautiful Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for this Sunday celebration, for life and health and strength. So I bless this Sunday. I bless this Sunday celebration, our speaker, and all of the people that it took to get this event to happen, all of the members of the board, the volunteers, everyone within the community that it took to get this Sunday celebration going today. I'm grateful for this beautiful community, and I extend and include in the circle of this prayer everyone everywhere, for those places that have been struck by hurricanes and flooding, fires, earthquakes. I pray for shelter, safe shelter, comfort, peace, and all the help that they need to get back up on their feet. I pray for our government, and I remind each of us that no one is against us, even if they think they are. And so I pray for every level of government, for everyone everywhere, because we are all one in this beautiful world. I'm grateful for this day, grateful for this time that we can be together. And I invite the presence of Spirit to be with us this morning, to hover over this beautiful gathering. And it is with abundant joy and abundant gratitude that I release this word, excuse me, into the perfect law, knowing that all that each of us has prayed has been accomplished. I allow it to be so. Please close with me by saying, and so it is.
And so it is. And thank you, Lynette, and thank you, Reverend Evelyn, for the beautiful music and the beautiful treatment. Both wonderful. Um, the We're in November. Here we are. It's November 2nd already. Um, and we've been going through the Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey values and taking a look at them. And the theme for November in that way is infinite possibilities, a journey through our spiritual values. The affirmation today, the reading today, and the talk today from Reverend Joel all are for us to embody these and actually live these values, because they are so important, especially in the times we're in right now, that we all know what we value, who we are, what's important to us. And that, um, in this teaching, we have an expression that says, treat and move your feet. And it's wonderful to say, yes, prayer is a wonderful thing, but you have to do something, right? You have to live that. I recently came to the idea, yeah, you have to pray with your feet. And I think that's a good thing to remember, is that, we take what we know and what we value. And of course, the number one value right at the top there, and you'll see it right on the screen from Wing's iPad right there, love. Love is the core, and it's the basis. So the affirmation for this month is right there now in the chat, and you can read it right along with me. I am possibility. Now, as I activate the creative process, I affirm that anything and everything is possible for me. Spirit always says yes, and I, being one with Spirit, live in that yes, continually invited to return to principle. I remember that Spirit never withholds, but always corresponds. And so it is. And that is definitely true. So I invite Reverend Evelyn to give us our reading for the day.
Okay, so I am reading from page 87 in the textbook. Only one mind. There's no such thing as your mind, my mind, and God's mind. There is only mind, in which we all live and move and have our being. Things are ideas in form, What else could they be? There is nothing from which to make things except ideas. In the beginning, we behold nothing visible. There is only an infinite possibility, a limitless imagination, a consciousness, the only action of this consciousness being idea. That which we call our subjective mind is, in reality, our identity in infinite mind. It is the result of our mental attitudes. It is our mental atmosphere or center in universal subjective mind in which are retained all of the images, impressions, inherited tendencies, and race suggestions. We see then that our subjective mind is the medium through which experience comes to us.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Mhm.
And now, as we do all the time, we're ready for our peace practice, which is just affirming the peace that we'd like to see. So it is, again, something that's important now, but something that's important every day, ongoing, forever. We need to stay in practice, and a peace practice that's based in the love is very, very important. So if you would, please repeat after me. I am the peace I wish to see. I know this peace for my family. My family knows this peace for my community. My community knows this peace for my country. My community knows this peace for the world. Thank you. And I want to, again, I'll thank everybody now that everybody's here for making it here at the right time with um, daylight savings time coming upon us. We had a couple little bumps in the road. Um, we were scheduled to have a a power talk. I'm sure it'd be peaceful. That would come from Japan, but we realized the time difference wasn't exactly what we thought it was, so that we do not have that today. But I would encourage those of you who are open to doing a power talk to reach out to me so that we can add some things to what we do here in our celebrations. So we will have the song back to Lynette, and then we'll hear from Reverend Joel, our speaker for the day.
I had a joke, and then I decided at the last second that it was just a touch too risque, so this is the best I have. But if you stay later, I'll give you the other one. This one says, a boy read a restaurant sign that advertised fat-free French fries. I'm a big French fry guy, by the way. Fat-free French fries. Well, he was very health conscious, this boy was, and he said, that sounds great. So he walks in, he goes up to the counter, and he orders an order of fat-free French fries. But then he watched as the cook pulled a basket of fries out of the fryer, and he pulled them up, and the potatoes were dripping with oil. And then he puts them on the thing and salts them up and puts them in a container and hands them to the boy. And the boy said, wait a second, these don't look fat-free. And the cook said, sure they are. We don't charge for the fat, we only charge for the potatoes. All right. The other joke was slightly better. Okay, let's see. Okay, let me put that joke away. Minimize. There we go. Okay. Let's talk about our values. So this is week 3 of the values that this community has chosen. And today we're going to talk about community, diversity, and inclusion. And I just have to say, I believe, and I'm sure many of you believe this as well, that already this is a community that really does embody this beautifully. I mean, it's a beautiful community, and from the very start, my very first time here, it was something that was in the air. It was, you could tell that this was a community that valued community and diversity and inclusion. And so that's great. And in terms of the community aspect of this, I just would invite you to go back to Tony's talk in week 1, 2 talks ago, because that talk was about the first of the values, which was love. And she really did a good rundown of all the different things in our community that embody that love and embody community. So go back to that. So I'm not going to touch on that again because she already beautifully touched about it. And the other thing I'm not going to talk about with diversity and inclusion is that as a social issue. I think in this community, most of us would agree that that is a very important topic, right? I mean, I just was watching a social media post of this guy who had just gotten let go of his job from a major company. The whole division went through like a downsizing, and all of the people who were not downsized were Caucasian. All of them that were not downsized were Caucasian. And all of the non-Caucasian people were among the people downsized. And when the guy went to his boss and said, this doesn't seem right, I mean, this really doesn't seem right, the boss said, oh, it's just a coincidence. I think we know it's not a coincidence. I think we know that this is a social issue that's really important. And that's just one of many, many examples of this. And it's something that, you know, I think we continue, well, I mean, this is the understatement of the year, we'll continue to work on. But I don't want to talk about it as a social issue because in this space, I want to talk about it as a spiritual concept. The social issue is really the effect. And I want to go to the cause and bring this back to principle, which is what we do here in our centers. We always bring things back to principle, capital P, principle, and the call to action. So the first thing I want to talk about with this idea of diversity, inclusion, and inclusion in our community is this idea of a bigger God, a bigger life. And our idea of inclusion and diversity is really based on our view of life or God or spirit or whatever you want to call it. Our view of diversity reflects our view of God. I'm going to say that again because that's a big statement, right? Our view of diversity reflects our view of God. The bigger our God, the bigger our circle is that we include. So I've talked about this in the past, but years ago, there was a book, a famous book from Christian Theological. I do not recommend this as a book for our community to read, but I love the title of it. The title is Your God is Too Small. And what this guy does, he's a Christian theologian, and what he does is he talks about the ways that we talk about God and how each one of those ways we talk about God is too small, like God as a policeman, God as a parent, God is a grand old man in the sky. God is a meek and mild person. God is a managing director, a puppet master, so to speak, et cetera, et cetera. And anytime we assign anything like that to God, and I don't even like to use, it's not that I don't like it, I just don't use the word God that much anymore, but anytime we assign those kinds of roles to God, we've drawn a circle and we've limited the idea of what God is. That's not diverse or inclusive of the idea of God. Our God can be too small. But what Ernest Holmes said, echoing the Bible, in this book here, on page 430 of this edition of it, oh Lord, where are my glasses? Okay. He says this on page 430, he says, God loves all alike and causes God's rain to fall and God's sun to shine alike upon all. In arms which are all inclusive, divine love encompasses everything. In arms which are all inclusive, divine love encompasses everything. Now, I'm going to tell you where I discovered this quote. There's a thing, and students, practitioner and ministerial students get this, which is a concordance of the science of mind. And it has every word in the science of mind, except things like the and, of, but every major word and it'll tell you where in the book it is. And I looked up inclusive, nothing. I looked at, except for that one thing, diverse, nothing. And now I can't remember if community had something on here. I'm looking it up really quickly. Community, nothing. But that one quote really does say it all. And I think the reason is that language, that vernacular was not used in 1938 when this happens, but the ideas of what it is and trying to get a God that is not too small, a bigger God, is what every page of our teaching is about. So then that begs the question for us, how big is your God? How big is your circle of what you include? Our teaching is grounded in the idea of oneness. That is something that is very important to our teachings of the Centers for Spiritual Living. And that is the number one tentpole idea in all of the science of mind teaching is oneness, that they're not duality. It's not, good versus bad, evil, good, positive, negative, etc. But it's all one. So the idea with this value of diversity and inclusiveness is wherever your circle boundary is, that's where your idea of oneness ends. Wherever your boundary is where your concept of God stops. That's so big, right? That's such a different way of looking at oneness and diversity and inclusion in our own minds. And a quick thing to say that oneness is not the same as sameness, of course. We always teach this in all of our classes, that oneness does not mean sameness. Oneness just means that creative force that is within infinite manifestations. And that's the point. Infinite manifestations is the point, that underneath all of it is the oneness. So that is us. That's the macro of science of mind teachings about diversity and inclusion. So let's go from macro to micro. Let's bring it to us, the inner practice of diversity and inclusion. There's a joke I forgot to look for. I was going to look for it online and I forgot to, but it's something like this man is writing in his journal and he said, wow, I'm having the best day. I'm on spiritual practice. So far, I have been patient with everyone and everything. So far, I have forgiven everyone and everything. So far, I have been the embodiment of pure love. So far, blah, 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 blah. And then he goes on and on and on about that. And he says, okay, I'm going to end this journal entry now because it's time to get out of bed and start the day. That's a great metaphor for us. It is easy to do it in our bed, right? The metaphor for that, of course, is in our center. Our center is the bed in that story. It's easy in a sense to be diverse and inclusive in our community because our community is that. It's taking it outside, getting out of bed, taking it into the world where it's tougher to do. I know that's for myself, and I assume if you're listening and you're here that it's probably true for you as well. But the more we do it, the more we will see it. And boy, if there's ever been a time in this world where we need to embody it more, this is it. So let's go right to the spiritual principle that defines this very thing we're talking about. And that is, and if we were in in person, I would just say the first part and you guys would say the second part because you all know this, but it's as above, as within, exactly, as above, so below, as within, so without. Where you are not seeing diversity and inclusion or community even in your personal life, or really anything for that matter, that's the clue of where you need to expand your circle. Tama Keeves says, Lord, what did I do? Tama Keeves says, I bring this book up every time I talk, and because this is a mind-blowing book, by the way, but she says in this book, when we learn to include the sacred parts, the doubtful parts, and the messy parts of ourselves, when we learn to include all of it, then we become living examples of spiritual inclusion. That's part of what Reverend Michelle's work is about with the shadow work as well, bringing in all of us. And the interesting thing is when we bring in all of us for ourselves, we give that grace to other people more. But when we don't give that grace to other people, that just shows where we're not giving it to ourselves. That's why this is a as within, so without practice. That's why this is a spiritual practice that begins internally, each one of us. It's interesting because when we start talking about things like this, we all want it to come to us. You know, like everybody wants to be seen. Nobody wants to be left out. Everybody wants to be included in every way, right? But our path is to do it the other way. I remember years ago, I mean, this is years and years ago now, probably 20 something, maybe 30 years ago, I was talking to a minister of a similar but different denomination than ours. And she was saying that she went to a conference of the ministers in her group. And she goes, yeah, I mean, like not one person came up and talked to me. And I went to every place and I stood there and nobody came up and talked to me and nobody seemed to notice me and nobody this and nobody that. And I said, well, did you notice them? Did you go talk to any of them? She goes, no, I was waiting for them to talk to me, to notice me. I remember at the time thinking, but you're the minister. I mean, like, anyway, but she was right in the sense that that's how we all feel, I think, in the world. If you just have to go to social media and see how easily offended people are because something happened to them or didn't happen to them. But us in this group, or those of us on the spiritual path, we're called to do it the other way around. Oh, I hate that. It's the hard part, but that's what we're called to do. St. Francis, you know, expressed it so beautifully in the St. Francis prayer, which I forgot to get a copy of that too, and to read to you all, but we know it, right? You know, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace so that I might seek to understand rather than to be understood. That's how it begins. And then it goes from there. I mean, that's the path. That's the path we signed up for, or that we awakened within ourselves. That's all of our paths, but that's the path that we have chosen in our spiritual community to live. How do I know that? Because our 7 values say that in 7 different ways. Each one of the 7 values are all about diversity and inclusion, each one of them. And each one of them reflects the idea that we are to be the initiator of them, not to wait till we receive them first. That is a different way to live. And it's the way that we've chosen, and it's a beautiful thing. You know who I was thinking of who embodies this so beautifully? Is that great, great, great spiritual teacher who has followers all around the world, the Dolly Parton. You know, I feel like Dolly Parton is a person who embodies that, because every time in any interview they try to get her, you know, like, what do you feel about this hot button issue? What do you feel about this? She just says, I just love everybody. I'm going to let whatever happens next sort it out. I'm just here to love everybody. And, you know, by the way, here's Dolly's paint by number set. Hello, Dolly. Paint by number set. And it says here, I wish you joy. And you know what? Dolly does wish us joy. But look, she has every color here. Every color. She's inclusive. Anyway, I digress. She also does some beautiful fragrances. Dolly Parton embodies this beautifully. So that's just the idea, though, that we are the initiators of the love first, not that is an assignment, a spiritual assignment that we are given from our soul. Now, I remember, let's think about this in terms of application. I remember years ago when I was a practitioner student at Mile High in Denver. Mile High, for those of you who don't know, is a really big church in this movement, New Thought Church, and that's where I grew up in the teaching. And they had, I don't even know, 150, 200 practitioners or something. It's a big church, or I haven't been there in a while, but at the time it was just gigantic, and I'm assuming it still is. And practitioner students had to do after service work, which is they had 3 services on a Sunday, and after each of the 3 services, people could meet with a practitioner or practitioner student to do their prayer requests. And that was such great practice for a young practitioner who was learning, the practitioner consciousness. And I remember I loved it so much because you would sit there and then people would line up and wait for their turn to meet with a practitioner, and they'd sit in front of you and then they'd tell you their thing. I'm, I just got fired. I just found out my spouse was cheating. I just this, I just that. I remember her son was just put in jail for a crime. This and that. I mean, just like everything you can imagine. Talk about diversity. It was a diversity of people, but a diversity of issues. And my job as a practitioner was to listen to each one of them, but then to listen deeper and to go to the soul level. And what was so interesting is even though there was like all of these different issues, the answer to every single issue was the same answer: more God. That was the answer. Oh, you have less health? The answer is more God. You have less money? The answer is more God. It's not more money, it's more God. The answer, whatever the issue was, it was more God. And it was such a great perspective. It was great training. And the practitioners in this room and ministers can attest to that, I think, as well. But it's that idea of more God means moving to a higher consciousness where we're seeing things, everything, from the soul's perspective. That's diversity and inclusiveness within. As above, so below, as within, so without. So I was just thinking, I'm coming to an end. I was just thinking, what's a great way to leave people with this? And I was thinking, what do I do sometimes? And I don't do it every time, every day. I would love to say I do, but I am, not the great Dolly Parton. I am just a person. But one thing I do sometimes is I try to go especially when I travel into the city, I try to get into my practitioner higher consciousness, and then I think of it as dropping prayers on people. And so every person I meet or my eyes see, I drop a prayer on them. Just a quick one, like a little one-liner. Um, you know, Whatever it is in that moment, I just drop a prayer on them, drop a prayer on them, drop a prayer on them, drop a prayer on them. And I always think, who prayed for that person today? Me. I'm the one called to do it. Remember St. Francis, I'm not supposed to be asked to do it. I do it. And in that way, I don't think, like Jesus, when he fed the multitudes, he didn't say, you know, are you working? Do you have insurance? You know, what color are you, or anything like that. It was feed the multitude, heal everybody. So it's like when we do that, we can just drop a beautiful prayer, a beautiful quick thought on people. I don't care who they are, everyone. And when you're watching the news, that's a great practice too. Just drop a prayer on every person on the news. Sometimes you can even, I think it was Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith maybe that said it, or somebody years ago said, mute the news and just pray for every person that gets on the screen. That's a great thing. That's a diversity and inclusiveness in action. So I thought maybe what we could do is we could create like a mantra. You can create a mantra of your own, something like Spirit, help me see them as you see them. Or let me see this through the eyes of love. So then when you go to a restaurant and you have a rude server, or you go into a store and there's an asshole customer, oh, sorry, Neil, or you go to work and there's a conniving coworker or whatever, you're not reacting to it. We're being diversity and inclusiveness in action as our spiritual path first. Spirit, let me see this asshole. I mean, let me see this person as you see them. Spirit, let me see this server as you see them. Love, let me love them as you love them. Then we become the value that we teach and experience in this community outside of the walls of this community. By the way, remember, that doesn't mean we become doormats, just the opposite, because this is a time when we need to stand up for, the values that we believe. So this is not about standing down, but as Ernest Holmes informs us in my favorite paragraph, I'm not going to read the entire paragraph, but my favorite paragraph of this entire book on page 270, where he says, it is quite a burden lifted when we realize that we do not have to move the world. It's going to move anyway. This realization does not lessen our duty or social obligation. It clarifies it. So what that means to me is that when we become the embodiment of diversity inclusion here and in our soul, and we live that first, inside out, that informs our actions as well in this world that needs it. So, in closing, let me say, community, diversity, inclusion, they're beautiful words. They sound so lovely, but they are sometimes hard to do and they're sometimes messy to do. But we're called to get out of our beds to go and put them into action, not just in our lives, but be the action so that we affect the lives around us. I don't know about you, but I want to leave this earth with the biggest circle I can draw and maybe even erase some of the lines. I'm sure I'm not going to be able to erase all of it, and I've got a long way to go. But oh, what a thrilling adventure it is to just keep getting a bigger and bigger circle. That's the thrilling adventure that is the spiritual path. Let's take this into spiritual mind treatment. I get excited sometimes when I start talking about all this stuff. It just is the most thrilling thing in the world. I mean, this is it. This is it. Sometimes I forget that this is it when I get involved in, work dynamics or family drama or this or that, and I forget that, oh, that's not my path. Those are the effects of the path that I'm called to draw from and on. They're the clues, they're the breadcrumbs to follow to the greater path, which is this. It always comes back to more God, more life, more spirit, more breath. So that's where we go to right now, to the more, capital M-O-R-E, more. Because whatever we think spirit is, it's more. Wherever we go, it's more. However far we can stretch, it's more. So we go to the more today, knowing that as far as we have come individually and as a beautiful, amazing community, which has traveled so far together, we still have more to go. That's the good news. So I speak my word right now for each one of us listening, for myself, for every person listening, and for this beautiful community that is such a bright, shining light. That we become the embodiment of as above, so without. As we become the embodiment of so within, so without, as we become the initiators of God's love on this planet in the ways that we can. And as Ernest Holmes says, this is what informs our actions. From this high place, we now move and are directed by life itself, capital L, life itself, in and through everything, our bodies, our minds, our spirits, our emotions, our jobs, our relationships, our finances, our passions, our creativity, our everything. We are now guided, loved, and moved so that we might be an embodiment of the love of God itself. So with this as our truth, I'm just so grateful. I think you can hear my voice, how excited and grateful I am for myself and for each one of us. And I just release this into love and law, knowing it is true, even as I speak these words right now. This is just the realization of the truth that already exists. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.
And so it is. Absolutely. Just powerful talk, Joel. Thank you. Very powerful. Um, just you you really defined who we are and what we are as a community. And we have a lot of people to thank for this, like you and like Reverend Michelle, who built this, open and affirming and inclusive, community, diverse community, which is it's just beautiful that is who we are. And we want to keep doing it. We want to be able to keep doing this as we go forward and expand our message out there of acceptance and love and these values. We want to get out of bed with them. Like Joel said, like I said, we want to pray with our feet. We want to keep moving on that. So, and I am so grateful. This community is so grateful that everybody has been here to support us for these 23 years, and we look to do more. And how do we do more? With your help, with your time, your commitment, you're spreading the word, you're sharing us on Facebook, and we'll get to some specific shares in a minute. But yes, and by your financial contributions. We had a leadership council meeting this past week where we talked about the 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 way we could more powerfully deliver this message is if we had some place we could set up every single week, right? We do get in person 2 or 3 times a month. It's great. If you want to know where we are in person, when, just go to our website, CSLNJ.org. We ended up last month in the black, which makes our treasurer, Jessa, very happy. Not just Jessa, but the rest of us too. But so that's good. But if we do a little more, we could have that place where Joe Schneider could set up his video equipment and all of that permanently so that we could improve and expand. It's tough when you have to have it small and carry it in and out, just like with the band equipment and all. So we're working
And have
on
a bookstore again.
What's that?
And have a bookstore again.
Yeah, that was great. We had the greatest bookstore, right? And then what things change, we change with it. We'll come back even better than we were before. And your help is fantastic in doing that. And that's why we have our conscious giving affirmation that is now in the chat. And that we really are very grateful for all of your contributions. So please read along with me. I bless this gift that I give today. I give this gift from my heart, and I give it mindfully. May my gift go further to heal, prosper, and bless this center and all who enter. I accept all good that comes as a result of this flow, knowing that it returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so it is. And I have posted ways to give. And if you need more information, there's information there on how to get it. And if you want questions answered, we can do that too. So what we have coming up before we get our closing song from Lynette, which will be another fantastic one. She always is. Want to remind everybody that we still have these other weeks coming up. Next week, we're going to have Tony coming back to talk to us about our value of authenticity and freedom. Really, really important. The weeks after that, on that date is November 9th. On November 16th, we have Reverend Michelle coming back. Reverend Michelle is going to be there to talk to us about healing and forgiveness, which is very timely because she's going to be doing a book signing on that date with her new book, which is there it is right there, live in front of you, right there, the new edition, the new expanded
I just
edition.
got the brand new copy.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic.
She will be there doing that. That's going to be fantastic. And on that same day, we're doing a family and friends. So you invite everybody and invite family and friends on Zoom. I mean, even if they live far away, have them join us on Zoom and doing the family and friends, bring in your neighbors, round them up, go rent a van, get a minivan, pack them all in, drive them on over. Our community is wonderful, loving, kind. It's a great experience, and we welcome everybody to do that. The 23rd, I'll be speaking on prosperity consciousness as a value. This is not a get rich quick sort of a scheme that we have going here. This is about changing deep possibility in your life and how to get a true prosperity consciousness, not just, well, let me make a little more money type. We're talking about a different version of prosperity. And then on the 30th, Evelyn joins us with talking about spiritual education and the importance of ongoing spiritual education, that there is no done, right? It's a work in progress. God knows I'm a work in progress. I got to tell you that. So we have all that coming up. We do have a number of us will be going tomorrow over to the memorial for Eulith, which that information has been in the newsletters. Hopefully, we'll see a number of us over there at Woody's Home for Service in Orange. And that starts at 10 o'clock and the viewing 10, the memorial at 11. The family, friends, that is out there on Facebook. Please share this information so we get our word out a little bit more on all social media. It's out there on Facebook. We'll have flyers next week on the table for it. We really do need your help. And we do have wonderful programs that we're doing in outreach where, we tithe every month, just like we ask people to do, tithe where you're spiritually fed. So we do that every month. And we also have an in-reach fund as well as an outreach fund where we go out. But with the in-reach fund, if you know anybody who's struggling, who's having trouble and needs some financial assistance, please encourage them to reach out to me through this contact. We'll keep it very confidential. And we've been, since we started this fund 4 or 5 years ago, we've been able to help some people. We were helping people even before that, but this is a little just more organized effort. So that if you know anybody, ask them. I appreciate the donations that have come in recently to that fund. It just means that we can help more people. And that's fantastic. So with all that having been said, and what a wonderful day, and with a fantastic thank you for Lynette, and Reverend Evelyn, and Reverend Joel for everything that's been contributed here today. I appreciate it. And a forward thank you to Joe Schneider, who's going to edit this out tomorrow and get it up there on YouTube. Go to YouTube. All of our past talks are there. So thank you all. And I look forward to seeing you all in person next week over in Montclair.
At the Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, we believe in empowering individuals to discover their inner strength and their connection to divine life. Through our supportive community, transformative workshops, and uplifting services, we provide a safe space for personal growth and spiritual exploration. Whether you're seeking clarity, healing, or a deeper understanding of life's mysteries, our center offers practical tools and timeless wisdom to help you thrive. Join us in creating a more diverse, compassionate, and kind world. Your world, the way you want to create it.